Peter Lee's Notes from the Field by Angela Ahn. And this is another Silver Birch Fiction Award nominee for 2022. Peter Lee is the main character. The book is written in the form of a journal. So it says on the very first page, this notebook is property of Peter Lee. And it kind of goes along. You've got the date and then some notes throughout it. He's got illustrations. Peter Lee, who's the narrator, there's little illustrations that he's done. And he's sort of a well-rounded kid. He's athletic, into science, has friends. He's got an annoying little sister. His grandma's close to him, and she's sick, and his parents won't talk to him about it. So he's a grade 5 kid, and I'm just going to read you a little bit. And again, it's a realistic fiction, so he's not a real person, but the moment I read this, I'm sure a lot of you are going to go, oh my gosh, I feel like I could be out there playing soccer with him. And I feel like I know that kid. So here we go. The first chapter is called May the Force Be With You. Tuesday, May 14th, lunch. Conditions, light rain, high humidity. The ball came at me so fast, I barely had time to throw my right hand up in the air to block it. But just like Dino Charius, don't know. Dino Charius. Did I mention that this character is into paleontology? So I might have to check the pronunciation of some of these words. A dinosaur from the late Cretaceous period. I have unusually long arms. The leather of the ball grazed my glove fingertips. I had just counteracted a basic scientific law. The ball would have stayed in motion and sailed right through the goalpost if I hadn't applied the smallest amount of force. Force wreaks havoc on motion, and in this case, it caused the ball to change its trajectory, leading to the sweetest sound a goalie can hear. Thunk! The ball firmly hit the goalpost and rebounded back into play. That was a close one. No! Ryan Gagnon screamed as he clenched his fist and arched his back in frustration. You got lucky, Peter! He clearly did not understand physics at all. Luck has no part in science. We glared at each other briefly. And then Ryan ran ahead to keep close to the action. I leaned against my goalpost and watched the other boys run back to the far end of the field, and it wasn't long before they stopped to argue. I did not, Ryan shouted. I saw it, Ryan, you're lying! Joe Flores threw his hands up. It was so totally a handball. Joe was my good buddy and excellent judge of character. The rain was starting to come down, but we never called games off because of the weather. Sometimes I walked around with wet shoes all day and didn't notice until I got home and peeled my socks off. Instead of toes, I had stinky prunes. It looked like the argument was going to be a while, so I ripped off my goalie gloves and patted my front pant pockets. I felt for the familiar lumps of my small coil notebook in my left pocket and my inhaler in my right pocket. My asthma was getting better the older I got. I hadn't even had time to go to the emergency room, or hadn't even had to go to the emergency room in a few years. But I was still supposed to take a dose every day and an extra dose before exercise, not during exercise. Sometimes, like today, I forgot to follow the plan, and I made sure it was a good time to turn my back to the game so I could privately take a quick puff. The game had come to a complete stop. Even if he had touched the ball, Ryan would never admit it. Joe was trying to argue, but this was Ryan. I sighed and waited for the game to resume. I needed to keep loose, so I swung my long arms around and around like helicopter blades. As a goalie and the only player on the field who can use their arms, all this height has an advantage. At 5'9", I'm the tallest boy in 5th grade. I get to stand in the middle of the back row for the class photo. That's the top dog spot, and it has been mine for years. I'm really freaky tall, if you factor in the Korean thing. The Korean thing being that I'm Canadian-born Korean. Koreans are known for a lot of things: electronics, cheap cars with weird company names, addictive TV shows, K-pop. But Koreans aren't known for their height, and I break all the rules. As the argument got more heated, I watched Samuel Pack leave his basketball game and casually saunter up to Ryan and the other boys. Sam and her friends are in 6th grade and 7th grade, and they play basketball on the court right next to us at the end of the soccer field. I couldn't hear everything Samuel was saying, but I did hear a, who cares, dudes? Just get a life and play. This ain't the World Cup.